What's going on, good people? Welcome to the new episode of the Paul Rivera Podcast. I've been trying to get this next guest on my show for months, maybe even over a year. Coming freshly off of being named GQ Magazine's Power Broker of the Year, my good friend, super agent, Rich Paul. Welcome to the show, Rich. Rich Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
What's good, brother? How are you?
It's a cool little space right here.
Thank you. You came straight from the plane.
Straight from the plane. When you're doing the Rivera show, you got to be on time.
Listen, there may or may not have been a threat. I've been trying to get Rich on the show. Actually, I'm going to keep it a buck. You know what's crazy? On Twitter, people always hit me up and they talk about like who they want as a guest on the show. And obviously you'd guess they'd want Bron and all of that stuff. You're the number one person people request on the show. That's been happening for probably 6 months now.
Oh, that's love.
By far, it's not even close. You're the number one person. What do you think that is? What's your best guess?
I don't know, man. I just think that there's a connection with me and people. I was coming through the airport today when I got off the plane, and I literally talked to this young man from the time we got off the plane to to where the cars pick you up at, and it was just a conversation. I think people get that from me, like.
And you didn't know this guy?
No, I didn't know him.
Oh wow.
No. He recognized who I was, and I try to do that though a lot. Like I try to, I just try to hear people out or have a conversation. You just never know what it does to their day. Mm-hmm. And so I think about that because in these times that we're in America, it's just, you just never know what you're doing for that person, having a conversation. And also that young man or young woman, and enlightening them with what you do and how you do it, and just kind of helping them understand, because the ability to navigate your way through life is important. There's no ways to this navigation through life. So you have to feel your way through and figure things out. And so if you can be, 1 centimeter of help to anybody, I try to be that person.
So speaking of that, I think one of the things, I don't think you get enough credit. You don't get enough credit for a lot of shit. But one of the things you don't get enough credit for is there definitely wasn't a blueprint or a playbook to what you're doing, right? If there was, it wasn't handed down to you, right? You had to figure out a lot on your own, and a lot of people have to do that. But like, you got some formal training, you had some stuff that was natural skill and the type of person you are, and your morals and things you believe in, and other things you kind of learned on the fly. Like, what gave you, we were just filming The Shop the other day, and I asked one of our guests, like, what gave you the audacity to think you could do what you're doing? Like what, when you're coming up, when you decided to make the move you made, actually you won The Shop, right? And you had told Puff, when you made your move from your previous situation, you were like, I'm doing this because this is what I want to do. And I'm not doing this based on if LeBron comes with me or anyone comes with me. This is what I need to do. Like, what was your mindset in that?
Wanting to have a positioning in place. I never came from a place of someone doing something for you, and then also understanding and realizing the fake help. There's a lot of fake help out there, and when people ask me about where I came from to get to where I'm at now, you do have a lot of help. There's a ton of people that help you along the way, but it's not in the cases that most people would think. Oh, you went here and you learned this and you learned that. Well, not really. I learned a lot. I learned what not to do.
Which is equally as important.
Yeah,
right?
Which is equally as important. I learned that there's a conversation that takes place of, we're gonna make this look like this to keep this guy happy, but really you're just going around in circles, and me being from a different environment, that was everyday life for me. So it was easy for me to recognize that and pick it up. And so now you have a decision to make, and I'm like, well, there's no way I can stand here and go for the 52 fake out because in the end, you know, it's the calls stop being picked up.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, it's like, oh well, yeah, you know that, but you know, and then there's always a but. So I didn't really want that, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, I wanted to be able to be the decision maker for myself. And then there was another layer to the business in which I was able to understand that not everybody's making the best decision for the client.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of times it's a disguise, and this is the best decision for you, but it's really the best decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with my hands tied, it's nothing I can do. It's nothing I can do about that. And so, me being able to step out and have my own business and be the decision maker, and to surround myself with the infrastructure in which can help me make the best decisions for the clients going forward, is what I sought out to do. And the fruits of that is what we've been able to do as a company today.
It's interesting. We had obviously our brother and partner Mav on the show a couple months ago at this point, and I asked him about you because at the time, which we'll get into a little later, it had just been announced your UTA partnership, and I asked him, you know, what his feelings were, and obviously he was like, "Well, I'm super proud," and he was like, "Look, Rich earned all of that on his own." He's like, you know, and he said all the complimentary things you'd expect him to say given the long relationship you guys have had and continue to have. But what surprised me a little bit was, like, he said Rich, every step of the way, and this is the word he used, he said, was ruthless for his athletes. He said it was ruthless. He's like, he didn't care who thought he was right, who thought he was wrong. He was ruthless, and he was his singular focus was making sure he did right by his athletes, and his athletes got the best possible everything. Like, what are your thoughts on that, on him saying that?
No, I mean, I think that's a fact, because and it's not a thing where there's an animosity,
right,
or a disrespect towards anyone from within the professional environment. It's not that. It's just that I have a deeper bond because I come from the birthplace. You know, when you have whether an inch or a mile of what someone has, their struggle, whether that's mentally, financially, or environmentally, something sticks with you, you know, and it's two fish in the fish tank. We speak the same language. And so in knowing that, as they are allowing me to help them make these life decisions in this business environment, there's a certain code that I live by that I can't look you in the eye knowing I'm selling you a dream. Because to me, that's the ultimate disrespect. There's no other disrespect than that.
Selling someone a dream.
I mean, it's the ultimate disrespect, because if you look at the journey of an athlete, right? It's all gravy. It's all great until you get to the point to where it's a business. And what happens is these guys and the people around them are allowed to build bad habits all the way along the way until it's time for business. You can't change the tiger stripes. You just can't do it, right? So when it's time for business, if I'm not educated, if I'm not allowed to have a better understanding of what's most important and the people around me helping me make these decisions, I'm going to fail. Even if I don't fail in the short, I'm going to fail in the long. And that's what people don't understand. So you take a guy coming from high school, going into college, and now he has to choose his representation. The kid's not really choosing his representation in most cases. And the opportunity for you to represent this kid relies on whatever
all the
circumstance.
Other influences, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And based on the education of that circumstance, you may or may not have the opportunity. Well, let's just say he landed in the wrong hands, right? And when I say the wrong hands, not, the wrong hands for me is barely know the kid, don't really have his best interest, but you can disguise it. Because once the kid just wants to go to the NBA or NFL or whatever the case may be. Once he gets there, there's things that don't distract, but there's things that kind of causes you to look in a different direction and be a little misguided or just ignore. That's the word I was looking for. There's things that allow you to ignore what's right in front of you. Because of what? Well, yeah, I didn't really like that. But when you go outside, your car is shining in the driveway.
Right.
You got your watch.
Right.
You got your chain. You got the girl. I'm on TV. My check came.
I
right?
could look past whatever that thing was. Right.
Right. And so then you look past it, but it's there, but you ignore it because you also are so into who? Myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's ego involved too for all of us, right? 4 years go by fast. And so now, it's cool. And then you get to your next deal. If that next deal is a max contract, oh, you really not tripping. Can't nobody, if it's a very good, sets you up and your family up, going forward, have financial stability going forward, you're not tripping. It's not until there's a perceived loss or an embarrassment of some sort. And in most cases, the money's gonna mask that. The money's a cortisone shot to what's really important. And I understood that. And what I also understood is I'm gonna only be able to represent those who understands that. Mm-hmm. Because there's a genuineness that comes with this. I don't even really like the word agent because I'm not selling insurance, no offense to them, or I'm not putting the roof on your house and then I go to the next house and put the roof on. Mm-hmm. I'm there. We're there. Mm-hmm. The company's there. For better and worse, because that's what it's supposed to be. But I noticed a lot of things going on that I just wanted to change. And it's not for everybody. It's not going to be for every kid in his family.
It's super interesting as I hear you say that. It's like, yeah, as a grown man, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Then I realized like there are 19-year-old kids having to make these decisions.
Yes.
Right? Which is like, so you're telling me if I sign with you, I'm in the league, I have a shoe deal. It's all the same to them, right? It's apples to apples.
Yes.
Until it's not.
And one big component is, look at me. That's a real thing. Because as you know, we grow up, so now the advantage is to who? Mm-hmm. Is on the other side.
Yeah, it's not you.
So I got to fight all of that. I got to convince not only the player, the parents, and the people around them, because in their mind, what? That's easy. I can definitely do that. Mm-hmm. And my thing is, to all young, old, just all individuals, male, female, if you want to evolve and have an understanding of what's going on, this business, this place of business, I'm all ears. There's no question about it. But that shouldn't come with we come from that. We got that going to the corner store every day.
Of course. That
was our environment going to school. That's the social media environment. That's why it's likes or dislikes, Yeah, that's where it's commenting.
Yeah, comments, yep.
On that drives the whole thing. So now you have to deal with all of that. Mm-hmm. We haven't even got to the main thing yet. Right. You get what I'm saying?
Right. And especially, like I said, as a young kid, you said something to me that was super, super, blew my mind a long time ago. I don't even know if you remember. I think you had just did, I guess your first, what was the first Bron deal you did?
Coming from Miami to Cleveland?
Miami to Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was obviously a big deal for a number of reasons, right? Like him going back to Cleveland, rightly so, was the news and all that. And was that the 1-on-1?
Yeah.
Right, 1-on-1, which at the time no one had done.
No one was doing it.
Right, no one was doing it, right? And I remember making a big deal out of it for that exact reason. I was like, hey, first of all, I don't think anyone will ever understand the role you played, which has obviously at this point been well documented, the role you played in maintaining that relationship at Cleveland while he was gone and all those things, right? And just being the pro you were. And then, negotiating that deal that you negotiated. But what you said to me was, I will never get credit for anything LeBron. And I was like, what do you mean? And you were like, they actually use that against me. It's like, oh, that's LeBron's friend, right?
Yeah.
And then, as I mentioned earlier, I had Mav on the show, and Mav said his greatest fear was that he ended his career and he was known as LeBron's friend. Mm-hmm. He's like, that's my friend. It's my best friend. He's like, it drove me nuts, or it was like literally a fear that that's all I would be known as. Mm-hmm. And I remember you saying that, from his representation, saying you'd never get credit for him. Talk a little bit about that, about like what your mindset was when you were like, you'll never get credit for LeBron.
Yeah, because the media business, we understand it. If you're in this business, you understand it. And sometimes they can create that narrative. And unfortunately, if you're someone's friend or associate, it hinders you from a perspective of just optics, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, perception, yep.
But we've had guys sign with the same agent because LeBron had them, or because they were LeBron's friend and met the agent through. There was a company built on the back of that.
Yep.
Right? There's no hindrance there. Why? Because he's not his friend. He played a role and was his agent, but you didn't really determine how good that person was or not. It was good for him, so it was good for you because of the optics. But the difference was the people around you didn't necessarily become upset about it, or didn't necessarily feel a competitive environment within, because not only did he not look like you, but he wasn't in his so-called crew, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Well, I kind of got a hard time, understanding that one, mm-hmm. but that's why. And so, you have to fight that as well. I go into a lot of meetings and families are saying like, well, or the competitor says, well, how could he do for you and he has LeBron?
Right. That's LeBron's guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I can make the argument the other way around. Because you've been with this person for 18 plus years, doing business at the highest level, creating relationships at the highest level.
Yeah, you're leveraging those learnings, right? Yes, you're benefiting.
There's a benefit that comes with that, right? But depend on who has the paintbrush in their hand. The portrait could either be a Mona Lisa or it could be Oscar. I don't know. But that's the truth. That's and so I understand what Maverick was saying. I felt the same way. And so when I decided to start Clutch, that was in the back of my mind too. And I think that's out the window now. I've earned my stripes in that regard. But I'm glad I had to go through that. Mm-hmm. Because the dents in a man's armor shows he's battle tested. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad I had to go through that. And I'm continue to, I don't know everything. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I don't pretend to be. But I know what I don't know. And, there's a seriousness to me, as you know. So mm-hmm. I got no,
One thing I've always, you're one of my best friends. We've known each other for a long time now. But one thing I've really always respected about you is, as much shit as people have talked about you at times, competitors have talked about you, and I can say this in a public forum, I have never, ever, ever, ever heard you badmouth a competitor. I've never even heard you mention a competitor. No. Where's that come from? Like, getting all that hate, knowing, like, you go to a meeting, you meet with a kid, you meet with a kid's family, and they're telling you, like, well, this person said that. I've never heard you badmouth a competitor.
I go to meetings and the family says, well, we've been told you can sign with anyone, just not Rich Paul.
So a competitor is telling a family, you can sign with anyone you want to sign
Absolutely.
with, just not
Absolutely.
Rich Paul.
Absolutely.
A family has told you that.
Several families have told me that.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Because I come from the environment I come from, I've been built for this for a long time. I don't speak about nobody else because it's just not in my nature. It's not, once again, going back to that code. To break it down to layman's terms, obviously for the listener and everybody could relate to it, it's equivalent to, approaching someone and saying, hey, what's your name? How you doing? So on and so forth. And you guys are having a conversation. And then you mention another guy's name.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. So I can't, because I can only tell you about me. I can only tell you about our company and how great we are and why we would be a great fit for you and your son and your family and so on and so forth. There's no fun in me telling you how bad someone else is.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the inferior.
Yeah. And where we come from, it's like, this is what you were saying earlier. If you're bad-mouthing someone to me, I'm looking at you kind of crazy.
Yeah,
like, why are you bad-mouthing this guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's weird to me that,
But it happens all the time. I've had guys call me and say, I've had a situation this year where I was sent a text message and it went through like all these different things, he did this, he did that, he messed this up, he messed that up. And I couldn't believe the text. I'm like,
there's a text you'd received from someone.
From a player. That I signed.
Got you.
But he sent me, like, when the word got out that I was going to sign him,
another
he got
agent?
this anonymous text. And he's like, and I'm like, really?
Wow.
This is what they're doing? And I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm reading this text, and it's kind of funny to me, but I'm reading the text, and I'm like, oh, wow. But what happens is I also get a lot of, once you meet, there's a lot of people who judge you prior to meeting you,
Mm-hmm.
And that's the danger of the media.
Absolutely.
And like, people don't understand, when these people have these talk shows, they're having a meeting prior to going. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. It's a business, so I don't get mad at any of them for talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But to the average listener or viewer, they don't know that. They're taking what you say out of your mouth as gospel.
Right.
That's why it's, and when I have these conversations with a lot of reporters or TV analysts, after we have the conversation, they have a better understanding of it, because the new word optics or whatever. And a lot of times, look who represents I don't represent the person who's behind the pen or behind the microphone on TV. I don't represent them. Sometimes a competitor represents them. So there's a lot of layers to it. So I'm fighting the battle of Bunker Hill. But at the same time, I think that's why the people rally behind, because they know I'm the ultimate underdog. And I don't mind being that,
You still feel today you're the underdog.
Yeah.
That's just how you're made up. That's how you.
Yeah. I still feel that. That's why I get up. That's why I'm here. That's why those workout videos you see me doing, that's what that's about. I got to stay fit, man. I got to stay ready.
When do you think, because perception definitely changed.
Yeah.
On you, right? When do you think I got like, oh shit, he's really not only doing it, but he might be the best doing it? Like, what do you think?
Well, I just think that the two things. The athlete has been better educated. And the one good thing with social media, it does allow the accessibility to be of an abundance to the fan. And on top of that, I encourage all kids, all aspiring young sports representatives, I will say, be better than Rich Paul. Thrive to be. You see me, hit me on Twitter, whatever the case may be. There's a conversation to be had. both ways because it's not as easy as people think.
Mm-hmm.
This is my 18th season.
Wow. That's crazy.
18, and I'm just now starting to have a little bit of success. But what is success? Is it money? Is it notoriety? Not really. But for me, it's a positioning, having the ability to empower others, give others opportunity, and I don't take that for granted. I really, that's a very serious thing because you're changing lives, and that's what people don't understand. I get it. I get you see the seats and the athletes, and I'm blessed to be able to represent every guy who allows us as a company to represent them. And it's fantastic. I couldn't work with better people every day. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. But at the same time, it's not easy. It's not easy. And,
And where's that come from, Rich? Because I personally know, as much as I joke, we've been trying to get this to happen, this show to happen for months, right? And just schedules. And I know how busy you are and, all the things you have going on and your athlete roster is growing and your business is growing. You've always made time. One of the constants that hasn't changed is you've always made time for any young, you just said it, you did it in the airport today, any young kid that's like, hey man, I have a question, or hey man, you have a word of advice. Like, where's that come from? Like that desire to like help that next generation?
Knowing what it's like not to have, knowing what it's like not to really, and when I say have, not the material things in life, direction, right? What am I going to do? Who am I going to really be? Like they tell you, you could be anything you want in this world. Really? Really? So if that's the case, then why does it matter what university I go to? Right? Mm-hmm. But you just told me I can be anything I want to be in this world. But still there's a justification that comes behind that. There's a critique. There's an evaluation. So you got to double down on now. That's the criteria. Now come way down into, the Glenville community on the east side of Cleveland. That's a totally different dynamic. So understanding that is the reason why, because I could very easily still be there. Mm-hmm. I don't take it for granted. I could very easily have took the different fork in the road.
And you still remember that it's still a constant reminder to yourself every day.
There's no doubt about it, because I'm still in touch. There's not a day go past where I'm not getting a conversation or I'm not thinking or reminiscing about a time and so I'm thankful that I'm still in that mindset because it allows me not to take for granted. It allows me not to be above it all. Mm-hmm. When I go back home, I'm back home.
And I've been back home with you where it's like, you could be talking to the mayor, you could be talking to the dude from the corner, you could be talking
who's also the mayor.
Right? Right. I've seen
mayors.
you and everything in between. I've seen it. That's like you've never changed in that.
And that's in any city though. That's in Philadelphia, that's in Chicago, that's in Detroit, that's in Los Angeles.
I kind of feel like people look at you like you're the people's champ. You ever feel that?
Yeah, I do. And it's because there's nothing like, we used to play bingo as kids. It's like bingo, just like you pretend.
B-17, yeah.
You're pretending that this is your car. Bingo, this car. And it's that and to now this, I was in the board room the other day and the table was so long, I couldn't even believe that I was in the room, and I was the only one in the room. And I'm looking around and I'm saying to myself, this is a real thing.
You still have those moments where it's like, wow, I can't believe this is happening?
Yeah. Yeah. I think those moments are very important. The clients I represent, we don't just talk about basketball. We understand the importance of basketball and we live by a certain, where they hold me accountable, I hold them accountable. And if the train is going off the track, we got to try to get it back on the tracks. But if we can't seem to see eye to eye with that, then there's an understanding that, hey, just, our time may be up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still think about those things because it's dear to my heart and it's important. The other day I played muni football. I'm in the barbershop, guy. I don't need to tweet about that. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I've been them. I went to Florida every year playing muni football. I know the struggle for a parent to pay $500. Thanksgiving, Christmas. Thanksgiving and Christmas is the same day in the household.
Mm-hmm.
We're saving every penny we can. I don't really have $500 to go to Florida. Man, how about those socks up under that bed I told you to get 2 days ago? They still there. That I remember those conversations. Wow. And so to help in any way and to be able to have conversations with the guys you represent who are now fathers, who are young businessmen, who are trying to get into different things, and to help them understand not just the things that money can buy, but life. Why it's important to be professional. Why it's important to push through mentally. It's nothing like, I tell guys this all the time. Yeah, you ranked. But if you don't you're so close to making it that if you don't make it, it's even more detrimental. Because mentally you can't handle that.
Yeah, you can't rebound from that. That's tough, right?
That's why I was so happy when Melo got another opportunity, because I've known Melo since he was in. I know Melo. I know how he thinks, right? Now he could. I seen a 10 million pound gorilla come off his back, just having the opportunity to grace that basketball floor one more time. And whatever happens, he's at peace with that. I know that without even having to talk to him. You can tell, but
just looking at him, 100%.
But to have that opportunity, because there's a certain code. So I can't go out like that. Right. And that eats at you when you're a certain person. And so I was so happy for him in that regard. And I've let him do his thing, because obviously, I talk to a lot of guys I don't even represent, but and we'll see each other and we'll have a conversation about it. But yeah, it's all real, man. It's nothing.
One of the things that, and look, obviously you can't have the success you've had without being uber smart and having, you referenced it earlier, incredible people around you, right? Rounding out the clutch team. But I think the thing that separates you the most from anyone else in your industry is, and hear me out on this, is your relationship with athletes. And it's not the typical like, oh, he's their homie. It's like, I've seen you have very difficult conversations with athletes where you don't sugarcoat it and you're always going to keep it 100 with them. Like if they're bullshitting, they're bullshitting. If they need to do this, they need to do that. Like, is that something you're very well aware of? Like you're always that like open, honest, which seems like a natural thing, but doesn't really happen in your industry. Like,
no, because the reason why it don't really happen in the industry, because if I don't tell them what they want to hear, I'm fired. I can't live like that.
So everyone's afraid of being fired, so they're just
because you don't really know them.
Right.
Right?
That's a great point.
You don't, it's very hard to meet someone in a 2-hour meeting. That's BS, right? Let's just be frank. So, and the easiest thing to do is to feed their ego, right? That's the easiest thing to do. But I'm about respect, man, at the end of the day. And we have to respect each other. We have to be able to tell each other how we truly feel and get past it, right? That can't, us being honest with one another cannot be a roadblock. Or you can't, you shouldn't be able to use that against me, that if I don't do what you tell me to do, we're no longer working together.
That's not a real partnership.
No.
Right.
And so it wasn't like that growing up, and it's not like that now, because that trumps the money.
To you, that's more important than the money.
No, there's 1,000,000%. And I've had difficult conversations with everyone. My brothers, we don't always see eye to eye. We've had difficult conversations. I've had difficult conversations with family members. clients, with friends within the business, whether it's, music artists or whatever. And when I say difficult conversations, not that we're against one another, but you have to tell them the truth. And they respect that because not many are doing that.
Right.
You can act like you're doing it.
Right.
You can carry the briefcase or whatever you want to do. But the reality is, you see straight through that.
No, makes sense.
Yeah.
4 words for you. The Rich Paul Rule. What were you thinking when that came out? What's your initial thought when you first heard it?
The thing about that is, we were in the agent meeting in LA, where all the agents should do an agent meeting every, you got to go every other year.
Okay.
And they kind of give you the rules and just and give you updates on things and what happened and so I was a topic of discussion there for a tall guy that was playing down south, and some things had transpired. But, it's a learning thing. It's a learning for new agents coming in. And then a lot of guys been there longer than me. And so, it's a time where you're able to, communicate if they should. And you know what? Let's touch on something. I find it very counterproductive that agents don't communicate with one another. To me, and I think it was some things that wasn't necessarily comfortable with, because it's such a competitive environment. But I'm like, I understand why. Because in your mind, you're thinking, I don't speak to him. Therefore, if I represent one of his players down the road, or let me wish bad on him, because I feel if he come up short, then I got an opportunity at his player. Not really. If depending on what lane you in, the player gonna stay in that lane. He's not, going from, bird off to
right,
or
right.
It's so forget all that. But the communication should be there. That's why they have Sun Valley. There's top CEOs and CMOs they're communicating. They're competitors. They're communicating though. And so I think that there's a disconnect there, and it's actually pretty counterproductive, but whatever. There's history. There's, you now represent a client I used to represent, whatever the case may be. But just touching on that a little bit. But going back to the Rich Paul Rule, we learned about it there, and it was not the Rich Paul Rule. It was a rule that they were trying to implement. And I said it then, I'm saying, well, if you really understand this rule, what you're telling me is you have to have a college degree to represent players that's testing the water. Well, just to educate a little bit, there's really no such thing as testing the water. Either you're a pro or you're not a pro. If you feel you're not a pro, then go back to school. But if you feel you're a pro, then you come out. The testing the water part comes from, well, let me see what evaluation I get and have the ability to go back to school, but you don't have to, that's just a conversation, right? So if you call me and you say, Rich, you know what? I'm thinking about leaving. I just the rules say I can, do these activities and feel my way out. I don't really have to represent you to do that.
Good advice. Right.
That's just a conversation, right? So it really didn't, everyone was up in arms. I'm like, okay, it really didn't bother me at all.
I remember I texted you like, it doesn't affect me at all.
No, yeah, but that was, but then when it came out, the people named it the Rich Paul Rule,
right?
Because, the optics of it looks like, hey, this is them trying to build a wall against this guy. And when I look back at it, I'm like, oh, they're kind of right, because I'm checking I'm like, oh, okay. They, so the people actually knew better. But I'm saying to myself, like you just said, there's not really a university that teaches you the things that we go through every day as representatives of these athletes. What class am I going to actually take, and where is it at?
Right.
You can create one if you want to, I'll be glad to come and speak at it. But where is that university? It don't exist. Just because you're a lawyer or have a law degree, that don't make you a great agent.
It doesn't mean you can't be. There's a lot of lawyers that are crooks too, and I mean, there's a lot of great
no
people.
No doubt about it.
A college education doesn't make you good at anything.
No.
Or make you any more honorable than someone that doesn't have a college education. Let's be clear.
It's just
that.
It's a certificate. We get it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you go to the doctor, you go to your barber.
They got a certificate.
Right. But I don't know what my doctor does in his spare time. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
Nor do you care, as long as
hey, blood pressure's cool, right? Everything's good.
Yes,
we solid, great. And so when it was coming out, I'm thinking, and then it was a firestorm. LeBron, Kevin Hart, Chris Paul, but players that I know within the league were texting me more so privately, like, "Yo, we're not cool with this." And that was important to me because that let me know, okay.
And even players you don't represent.
Players I do not represent. Right. Players that's been in the league a long time. Players that's out of the league. Players that's in the league. When guys see me, it's like, because you can feel it and you know it. And so I was glad that people started to pay attention and understood what was really happening, because there should never be a restriction on anything. And now you're stressing higher learning when I got to worry about if my little brother and sister's going to even have a meal tonight. So where does higher learning actually sit on my mantle of life values?
Mm-hmm.
As as growing up, our family members at 18, they wouldn't have got a job.
Absolutely.
We
got rent to pay. We got food to put on the table.
We don't have a trust. Right. There's no trust.
Nope.
There's no estate planning. There's no any of that. So right away, we're stricken from the whole higher learning process. Not to mention, we're coming from a place where we barely got enough books in math class. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? So when you really look at this picture, it's like, wait a minute. Oh, I see what this is. Mm-hmm. We see what this is. This is you're trying to reshape this whole map.
Right.
You're trying to make, oh, okay.
And you know what the insane piece of it to me is? I think people, as they often do, take I like to say, they take a picture and make a motion picture out of it, right? And it's like, you've never said education's a bad thing. You've never said schools are a bad thing. You've never said players shouldn't go to school. I love school, right?
I never miss school.
What you're saying is it shouldn't be mandatory, and it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone.
Talk a little bit about Darius Baisley, who's one of my favorite players, and his situation. And
wasn't for him.
Right.
Kid told me he didn't want to go to college.
Right. It was not a conversation of you should not go to college because college is bad for you.
No. I asked him, why don't you want to go to college? He explained to me, and he was right. Mm-hmm. It's not for everyone, because here's the thing. If you're in the way, if you have control of me achieving something, depending on how you view me, like me, dislike me, don't like the way I tie my shoes, you can use that against me. This kid felt like he didn't want to give that. He didn't even want that to be there to be a chance of that. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, he was being pushed towards the G League. I didn't like that either. Mm-hmm. And so, I was able to speak to his mom, and she was able to, I walked her through what I felt like needed to be done. The talent was there. There's no question about it. The kid's a pro. 6'9.5", lefty, handle, smart. Knew it was there. What he learned from the time he spent with me and us, because everyone played that was a group thing. That was a company thing. It wasn't just me. That was,
I saw it.
He spent time with everybody because there was so much time. Mm-hmm. And you know, my team couldn't have done. They've done an unbelievable job of helping him, not just from a basketball perspective, but in life. But you know what I love most about Darius? When we were done with the meeting, we're in Ohio. Now, obviously, he could ask me 1,000 different things. You know what he asked me? Do you have a gym available? Sure. Absolutely. That to me told me he loves the game. And when you love the game, we can figure the rest out.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. We can figure the rest out. And so, no, but I do think there's a tremendous benefit from kids going to college. You know, and there's some tremendous programs out there. And Syracuse was one of them. It just wasn't one for him. You know, but that route isn't for everybody. Right. The Terrence Ferguson route to Australia, what LaMelo Ball's doing right now, and RJ Hampton, that's not for everybody. You know, but they shouldn't be looked at a certain way because they didn't go to college and vice versa.
Right. And that's always been your take. It's been like, hey, options are good for everyone. What's not good is you telling someone you have to do it this way, right? You not only do you have to go to college, but you can't play in the NBA either, like for a year. It's like options are good for everyone. And you've always been a champion of that. One thing I wanted to ask you about, which obviously is common knowledge now, Clutch partnering with UTA. You know, everyone always thinks like, oh, of course it had to be a ton of money and all these things. And you know, our conversations are always, you know, well, the money's there regardless of what you do or where you go at some level. So it's not just about the money, right? So what was the thinking on the timing of that partnership?
You know, we've talked internally, you know, about how to grow as a company. And obviously, you know, wanting to get in different sports, wanting to add to our ability to represent the client after they're done playing their respective sport, the ability to grow our reach globally. And so when evaluating all those things, you know, you look at several opportunities. You know, there's several ways to do it. You know, there's raising capital, going out and handpicking certain people to do certain things, or just partnering with a company like UTA. And through my due diligence of several companies in it, and they were all, you know, pretty reputable companies, UTA fit Clutch. They were the right partner for us from a perspective of, you know, the leadership group, you know, whether it was Jeremy Zimmer, Jay Shures, you know, David Kramer. And I got close with those guys like right away. You know, it was a very genuine thing with Jeremy and myself, just having dialogue, and then meeting guys like Andrew and David and Jim Burkus, who was a co-founder there as well, had a conversation with the business partner of ours, and Paul, and you know, it was all these different conversations, and in doing my due diligence, it felt good. You know, I'm a man. I'm a feel guy. I
mean, that's what you told me. You told me it felt like it felt good. It felt right. It felt like home.
You put your clothes on and you're like, I don't really like this shirt. Let me change. Well, at least I do. I don't know about you, but at least I do. But you know, I think you might have somebody come and change.
Oh, we're not gonna do this. Don't forget, last time I walked into your crib, you had it. We're not gonna do this, man.
Not today, please. But yeah, it just felt right. It felt right. The culture there felt good as well, and you know, they welcomed me and us at KSG with open arms, and they also saw the value. Both, it was a two-way street, you know. And anytime you get, that's a true partnership. You know, I felt like it would be a true partnership. They understood the importance of us as a company and what we've been able to accomplish, and our identity and the soul that we were able to instill in the business and things of that nature. And they respected that. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't about any of the clients. It was about KSG and what we were able to build in a short time. And, you know, for me, in talking to the group, and, you know, those things are always difficult, right? Because you can't really give all the information.
Right. Especially as it's happening.
Yeah, as it's happening,
right.
you know, and so
it's tough.
You're kind of giving, you know, seeping things out or whatever the case may be. But it's been great, man. I couldn't be more happy.
Happy with it to date.
Yeah, with the decision. UTA is a great company. We have, and the thing is, all the people there are very successful. There's a culture, but they have fun. You know, it's not like it's too big for, you know, because I'm not like that.
Right.
You know, it's like, hey, you know, so that's I'm really, and the thing is, we're just beginning. You know, it's no rush in what we're doing.
How many years
together?
is Clutch? How many years has Clutch been? You founded Clutch.
September 12th, 2012.
Oh wow, 7 years.
So it's 7 years and some few months.
That's a lot to accomplish in 7 years, man.
Yeah.
Hey, recently, speaking of which, a tweet went out and damn near shut down Twitter. And it said Rich Paul and Clutch are getting into football. And I think it sent people running for cover. Did you feel that? Did you feel like like the news, what that was?
Yeah,
like?
I mean, look, I just think it was going to happen one where I love football. Mm-hmm. You know, football was my first love. And in my community, I come from, we have one of the best football farm systems in the country. You know, and so there's been, as you know, there's been several opportunities for us to be in football, but we were not ready as a company.
I've always respected that discipline.
And I knew
you could have chased the money and you were like, no, it's just not the right time.
And you have to have the respect for, you know, Marshawn Lattimore is from my neighborhood. He and his family came to me and spoke to me. And because I had so much respect for him, I can't half-ass do a job, and I don't want to piecemeal it either. You know, Ted Ginn Sr., who we all know, came to me about a young man who was, you know, had a little troubled past or whatever, and felt like he needed my help, and I'm telling him I'm not into football, and he's telling me, yes, you are. And I'm like, yo.
Like, no, you don't understand. I'm not in football.
I'm not, but you are. And so in that case, I was able to help him, and that player ended up being Frank Clark. Look where Frank Clark is today. You know, he just signed a $100 million contract. And so, and the list goes on and on, whether it was Dante Whitner, or whether it was Ted Ginn Jr., or whether whomever. Like, you know, I've always been into football, you know, and always knew the history behind the game. And so I always wanted to get in at some point, but I just couldn't. I was trying to find, and there's some people out there that I really like, that I felt could lead the charge. And so I was able to have a conversation with one, and we're gonna do some things that we're tying up the loose ends now. And I you know, he's great. He's great. So I'm happy about that. And he and I are talking about, we want to build the right team. And it's not a me thing, it's a we thing. You know, and I think that's very important. And then we'll go into baseball and go into soccer and build a, we want to do those things. And it's not like, oh, here we come to take over. No, we just want to play our role in because I think there's a space for us. I think the athlete wants it, you know, because for some of these, they just don't have, it's a system, right? This person has to coach and this person do this. And so what do I know? You know, I'm just doing as I'm advised to do.
Right.
And there's been several businesses built on the backs of that. It's like, oh, this kid came in, this guy knows this guy. Okay, this is the guy for you. Okay, fine, that's what you say. Okay, fine, that's great. And here we are. You know, there's 20 first-round picks because of that. We don't have that luxury.
Yeah, not necessarily because of an expertise, because of great work being done.
No. And again, it's not a negative. Hey, congratulations.
Right.
But there's also nothing wrong with options.
Back to the
So
options.
we just want to be an option.
I'm
That's
not
all.
mad at that.
Yeah.
Those options are going to get interesting in the next 12 months. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Before I get you out of here, I think there's like a couple of like just like dope pivotal moments for you personally and for your career, and I want to like just ask you about them and give me your thoughts on them. One is I believe Jay-Z's on the 444 tour, and he has a show in Cleveland, and he says on stage something along the lines of, not everyone can be LeBron James, not everyone can be Jay-Z, but you can be Rich Paul. Were you there? So you're hearing him say this?
Yes.
You didn't know he was going to say that?
No, he didn't tell me he was going to say that.
What's your immediate thought when you hear Jay? Who's someone we've all grown up like? He's Jay, right? Like he's.
You know, again, I think it goes back to that, you know, steel sharpens steel analogy. I remember, people don't know this, but Jay and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about the cloth. And in the song he made, the original verse goes, "My homie Rich told me, Hov, there ain't many of us. I told him less is more, there's plenty of us." You know, Jay and I always have those type of conversations. And I just think, you know, I'm gracious for it, you know, humbled by it. Obviously a man who achieved as much as he has done, obviously as an artist and as an individual, you know, that's the ultimate respect. And he's right, you know. The odds of you being 6'8.5", 250 and run like a gazelle,
right.
like,
right.
you know, right.
Good luck.
Yeah, there ain't, you know,
right,
that many Wheaties in the world. And the odds of you being able to put bars together without writing them down and create these visuals that come, you know, my art remains through the heart. Like, you know, when you come out that speaker, like when he said, my art remains like a dart from the speaker to your heart. Like, that's a real thing. Like, he's painting those pictures. He got people through the night. Got me through a lot of nights, you know. And so that's coming from that place is the ultimate respect. And then my peers in the music, there's a lot of guys, you know, again, another thing that I love. So I'm having conversations with a Drake or a Meek Mill or a Quavo or, you know, a Coach and Pete from QC. Chance and I was having a conversation the other day. YG and I was having a conversation the other day. I was able to have a few conversations, you know, with Nip before his passing, you know.
And a lot of people may not know that not only, you know, they may see you somewhere at a dinner or a party or whatever the case may be, like with an artist, whether it is a Drake or a Future or whoever it is, and they may think, yeah, that makes sense. Rich represents athletes, and you know these guys are famous. You have real relationships in the music industry where these guys are asking you like personal advice.
Yeah, those are separate questions, and there's a mutual respect as well. You know, obviously I'm not trying to be a rapper, but there's because they're people, you know, and they respect things, and again, the sports and entertainment business go hand in hand. Even with guys like Lil Wayne, you know, when he would see me and embrace me, you know, and since I've been young, you know, this goes way back. Like
you said, you've been in the game 18 years.
Like, yeah, and so that, you know, for Jay to say that is you know, it's fantastic. You know, how could you front on that? I would never front on that. By the way. No matter what, you know, the successes may be. Anytime somebody is giving you your flowers, while you can still smell them, that's you know, that's important, and we should do that more often. You know, as on our group chat, we try to do it as much as we possibly can, and you know, it's where we come from. We have to break that cycle, you know, because our environment gives off a negative connotation before it can ever be positive.
Right.
And you grow up and it's disguised as a joke, but it's not really a joke. It's really how you really feel. You're just lightening the load of it. But let's try to reverse that energy. Let me tell you, you know what, P? You know, that's a great shirt you have on.
It doesn't take anything away from your shirt or what you have going on.
No, zero. It don't take any of that.
Right.
And it goes back to our business. You know, when guys get players or when guys do deals, I text them, hey man, that was great. You know, congratulations. You know, because I was raised like that. My father, when they hit the spot, hey, there's PR. He with his lady, send him a bottle of champagne, man, on us. That's what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You know.
So J moment, right? That's special. Cover of Sports Illustrated.
Forget about it. That was, again, one of the moments you talked about, like, lost for words with that one because they never told me that.
Oh, really?
No. Originally, it was either with Anthony Davis or with LeBron or both or whatever the case may be. And I never want to put my guys in that environment, you know, because at the time, you know, you just, and I don't want that, right? I don't want to be, I have such a profound respect for our league and even though it's a competitive nature amongst players, they have a respect for each other off the court. And, you know, I just didn't, I didn't really want that. But the writer he was unbelievable, you know, very highly respected by his peers. And we just got into it. And we just, you know, I really opened up to people like I opened up to him that, you know, during that time. And we just, you know, we had a real conversation. And obviously one of the main topics was the Anthony Davis situation in New Orleans. And it goes back to what you said, just trying to do the best job for my client, you know. And what people don't understand about our business is a guy goes on NBA radio and says, well, wait a minute. Oh, he works for the team. I thought he was just on radio. Right. You know, they don't really, but you're not looking up under the hood to all that.
And the person listening or watching doesn't know that. Doesn't look at it. Yeah.
But it don't matter because you can't, like you said, this is the beginning of the movie. So what happened in February is one instance, but did it have to get there? No, didn't have to, but you don't go into something hoping something don't get somewhere. You go into something prepared for wherever it goes. Just like when we were young, we walk out our house. I'm prepared for whatever goes down today. Hey, it may not be nothing. We may just have a bag of Cheetos and a Chili Willy. But in the event it goes there, then you got to be ready.
Right.
And that's just my mentality, you know. There's no better person to represent than Anthony Davis. His family's unbelievable. Him as a person, unbelievable. But he was understanding, and there's a frustration, and there's also a respect as well. And so he had all those things. And so, hey, things go how they go, and you're able to have a conversation about it. And the optics and media and this and that, and it, you know, things. But at the end of the day, there was something that had to be done, and you know, we were able to do it, and they were able to get things in return, and things end up working out, which is great, right? But we can't really dictate what happens,
like how we get there in the process
in between.
It's just
it's just you just can't do that. So but you know, it was just such a proud moment, man, because I remember ripping out the little card in Sports Illustrated to be a subscriber. I remember different people that was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I remember LeBron being on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And somebody made me a picture with LeBron's cover and my cover side by side.
Oh, that's dope.
And, you know, I don't get there without the clients, man. Like, I don't get there without the Tristan Thompsons or the Eric Bledsoes or the Corey Josephs, who people don't, you know, I don't get there without these guys. You can't.
Which by the way, I want to say this because you won't. Like I said, I've had the pleasure of knowing you and working with you and being your partner and brother, you know, for a decade now. And like when you say, you know, you're about the athlete, and when you say you don't get to where you're at without the athlete, like I can literally count over the last 10 years, easily 10 trips, 10 vacations you've missed. Yeah, right? That we've gone and you're like, nah, I got to stay with Eric Bledsoe.
I'm not going on vacation, man.
I got to get Tristan's deal done. I got to get
John,
this stuff. Always.
Whomever,
so it's not just on some. The vacations have been with Bron that you're like, no, I can't go on that vacation. I got to get this done.
Yeah.
So it's not the favorite child or the biggest client, which is what's comical to me when people say, oh, that's LeBron's guy. I'm like, no. I've actually he actually sometimes doesn't fuck with us because he's got to do.
That's the narrative that they want to paint. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It went from, well, how's he gonna walk in a 500, you know, Fortune 500 company and do anything, to, oh, you can't go with him. He wear white after Labor Day. It's like, well, wait a minute, man. Are we going like are we critiquing? I feel like you got an ace bandage on under your jeans. I'm not, you know, I'm not saying anything about you, but so what, you know, but that's what. But like my dad always told me, because so many things went on as kids. It's like, you know, son, when someone says or does something to somebody, it's more about them than the person that they done it to. Mm-hmm. What drove them to do that? I get up every day. I can look in the mirror to know I'm solid across the board. I'm solid across the board. Hopefully they could do the same. You know, so I'm okay with that. But God's blessing me. I have an unbelievable team. You know, Fair, Lucas, Brandon, Mark, Molly, Wendy, Mark. You know, Marquise. You know, Daryl. Like, and we're adding, and we have a lot of fun, and it's a beautiful thing to see, and as you know. People look at me and say, "Oh, that's just like I got a whole army behind me," you know,
absolutely.
At different levels.
Absolutely.
But unless you're inside the ant farm, I'm not really advertising that,
right?
You know, because there's no sale. Well, what? I'm not selling you anything. I have nothing to sell, right? And so, you know, that was big, man. And for every kid to see that, to know my story, to know where I come from, and just kids in my neighborhood to get up every day that don't have anything, but to see that inspiration that's worth more than any dollar amount you can give me, because I know that somebody is inspired by that every day. And so to get there is, again, man, it's unbelievable. Not even sure how I got, and I didn't know. I woke up.
That's crazy.
And my phone was like going crazy. It was like 3:30 in the morning because I'm on the West Coast.
You're like, this is either really good or really bad.
And I'm like, and I'm like, whoa, you know. And boom, I had my first text was from the writer.
He sent you the.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Mr. Price, and he was like, and it was like the attachment, and it was the cover.
Wow. And
I was like, whoa. And you know, I just wish, if I could wish anything, I just wish my mom and dad was here to see that, you know. But, you know, they see it.
I'm sure they see it.
But, you know, but it was, yeah. And so that, you know, and then.
Yeah, so like the latest, it's like, you know, the hits keep on coming. Like, so at the time we're recording this, I'm sure it'll be public knowledge by then. GQ names you Power Broker of the Year. GQ's not a sports magazine,
No.
right? So, and they're not saying NBA or basketball power. You're the power broker of the year. What's your reaction to that?
Again, whether it was, the GQ piece, obviously the Vanity Fair piece came out before that.
Yep.
As the, entertainer, those words, GQ being a fashion magazine, Vanity Fair, they're not sports publications. Again, it's just a humbling thing, because those are things we rip pages out of to aspire, GQ, I'm like, finally I've spent all this money on these clothes, man, for years. It's like I'm finally getting my just due, right? But no, it was like I'm thankful to both Vanity Fair and GQ for that, as well as Sports Illustrated. It's a testament to hard work, man. And although I get all the credit individually, again, I don't do these things by myself. There's a team that allows you to sit in that position, and and that team includes the clients as well. And it's just, it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's exciting to see the support too, because all my clients support it.
That's one of the biggest things. Like, they're happier than you are.
Yeah, they love it.
When you get
they
these
love
things.
it. And they be like,
Bron's the first one to post.
Bro, you deserve it.
Yes.
Tristan,
they see
hit
the hard
me the
work.
other day. Like DeJounte, all these guys. They Trey Lyles, like they hit me on these things. And your relationship with guys are different. Like Ben and I have a different relationship than Nerlens and I. And so it's gratifying, man. It really is, and to be in this place and to not take it for granted, and but also at the same time, it's motivation too for yourself, because I gotta keep pushing. I gotta continue to fight. Every day they building walls, to try to block certain situations, and as they keep building the walls, we're just gonna keep knocking them down, and and we knock them down as a team. But the overall goal is to build something I feel like that the athlete can go to sleep at night knowing that they're being represented the right way.
I think that's a perfect transition. I have two more things I want to ask you. We'll get you out of here. One is, and I've told you this before, I think you are Rich. You, Mav, Randy, and Bron, right, have created this new generation of empowerment, right, for athletes, and but you've also, in some aspects, created a false narrative where I think athletes think they could just put on their homies and it works out every time, right?
Yes.
And I know it's not lost on me the irony that I'm sure you face it now when you're talking to athletes about representing them, and they're like, no, but my cousin, you know what I'm saying? He's a pretty smart, he's mad funny, and he's a smart guy, and I trust him, so he's gonna manage me. Like, what's it like being on the other side of something you created?
It's the toughest thing in the world, because my hands are tied, right? My hands are tied. I can't necessarily tell them no, right? Because I'm part of the problem. I helped create the problem. There was an athlete before that told us that we were going to be McDonald's managers, right? So I'm like, at the time, I'm like, huh? And it's like, well, that's actually, if you embrace it the right way, that's a hell of a job, right? Because most people equate, position with money. And I'm like, no, like that, because that same guy who became the manager could now become an owner if they're embracing it the right way, if they're making the right relationships, if they're utilizing all of its resources, right? So don't shine a negative light on that. That's a real
That's hard work,
opportunity.
yeah.
Right? But because in your mind it's not sexy, then it's not a real accomplishment. And so going back to, like, we are definitely a part of the problem. And it's definitely not easy as people think. Number one, there ain't many LeBrons out there.
Right.
And so the mistakes don't get to come in multiples, right? Because this guy could overcome one, maybe two, maybe even three. But that guy can't.
Mm-hmm.
One mistake with that guy could be
the last mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, the capabilities are different. Not saying that others aren't capable, but there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with being capable. You know, I have one of the best educations in the world I went to the University of Nike for 4 years. Mm-hmm. Right? You know, you work there. Mm-hmm. There's
Absolutely. Can't pay for that.
You get a master's from there. You can't pay for that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I just think that in the event you're going to do it in a manner of realization. You know, okay, if this is what you want to do, then you're going to get with this guy for the time being. And let's see how you really, because there's no get rich quick scheme. See, everyone, and the worst thing in our entire business is entitlement. And our guys deal with this in an abundance because of whether you are a family member,
the people your guys have around them.
Yeah,
so, yeah. Or
because there's an entitlement with all athletes, right? It's just natural. Mm-hmm. And I always say this: one of the best things that ever happened to me was I was not actually kin to LeBron, right? I can't be entitled to do anything.
So this day you're not, by the way.
No. Hell no. Because, again, I don't take it for granted. And so you have to be capable, you have to sacrifice, you have to be willing to be Rich Paul 18 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
Mav always says that. He's like, everybody wants to be us today. No one wants to be us 18 years ago and go through the mistakes, 18 years worth of mistakes.
And not knowing.
And sacrifices.
And sacrificing. And Matt was making $48,000 a year.
You guys were roommates at one point, like.
Yeah, Mav and I were roommates. And you know, I see guys that do things, I'm like, damn. I wish LeBron, he never would even thought about doing that. Oh, we get to go to Barney's and put anything we want on the cash register? Oh, I'm getting the jeans that got the Jaworski crystals, you know, on the inside. because I can. Mm-hmm. That's the mentality that you don't want to have. I get it. If you have the opportunity to work in any capacity with these guys, utilize it as if they're not your guy. Mm. You want to be able to stand alone because they're your back line of defense, but you got to toe the front line, right? Mm-hmm. They're your back line of defense. So that's your rainy day. That's your umbrella when necessary. But I want to spend as much time as I can educating myself. I want to spend as much time as I can getting to know people. You know how many hands I shook of guys who were low on the totem pole of organizations that became GMs? Mm. So many.
And at the time you're shaking the hand, they couldn't do anything for you.
Zero for me.
Right.
Right? And I couldn't do anything for them.
It's a great lesson, yeah.
I couldn't do anything for them. Guys didn't have certain jobs, you know. The guys that park the cars, the guys that, you know, take your keys, you know, the security guys. You know, you have to treat all these people the right way because it's the right thing to do. Don't treat it as just, you know, and every now and then you kind of get out of that, and that's natural, but hone it back in. But in terms of just educating yourself, why does this person do this? And why does this person do that? And why is there a scouting team? What's an advanced scout? What does a GM actually do?
It's a video coordinator do.
Yeah. Like, all those things. Because at some point in time, that light is going to turn off of that athlete, right? The difference is they're making hundreds of millions of dollars or millions of dollars. You're not. So you have to utilize this time to try to better position yourself, not to get rich. The likeliness of you getting rich is very unlikely, right? Mm-hmm. But utilize that time to better educate yourself, better position yourself, build relationships that's sustainable. Therefore, you have longevity within this business. So when this guy is done, you're continuing on. You are continuing on. That's a real thing. I evaluated that. You know how he was going to treat me? When 2-3 says, I'm done. Hello? Can I call you right back?
He said, Rich?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Rich Paul. No, he's in a meeting. Yeah, he can't take your call right now.
Yeah, right. I don't want that. I didn't want that. Mm-hmm. But it's coming. And
if you don't prepare now.
Yeah, and I see so many ex-players who watched me grow up. These guys watched me grow up. Man, do you know I used to ride with Rip Hamilton? He lived in Coatesville, Maryland. I'm sorry. He lived in he's from Coatesville. He lived in it was a part of right outside of DC. I can't think of the name of it, but I would land and go to Rip's house. This is Rip Hamilton. I'm nobody, right? But we would hang, and it was great, And when you see these guys today, they couldn't be more proud because they seen you get it out the mud. They know. You understand what I'm saying?
And that's such a crazy one for me, Rich, because I think the narrative of like, oh, those are LeBron's friends. I have people tell me, oh yeah, like Bron put you on. I'm like, yo, when I met Bron and Rich, I was director at Nike of his global brand. Now, I would never shy away from saying Bron has given us opportunities. No. Absolutely. And I'm forever grateful and indebted for that.
But again, you say that to say what? So did Draymond.
Right.
So did John Wall.
Right.
So did Anthony Davis. So
100%.
did, there's and here's the thing. So what?
Right.
So what, Bron? You don't think that Greg Popovich gave Steve Clifford and Borrego and Dennis Lindsey and Sam Presti an opportunity? What do you think happened there?
Right.
Why do you think they called it the San Antonio tree?
Right.
Not a branch, a tree.
You have one of the best lines also. You say, you can sell out Madison Square Garden for me. You can get me the Roots as my backup band. You can sell tickets. You can do all these things. And then guess what? I still got to sing. I still got to walk in the middle of that stage, and I still got to sing.
Still have to perform.
So the opportunity does not matter. I mean, it's helpful and all that, but it's not all that matters.
No.
You still have to perform.
Yeah. They can set the stage up. The lighting is right. All that. Got seedless grapes in the dressing room. The whole shit. But you still have to perform.
Yep.
Every night. Okay? And so, again, not taking anything for granted. Someone has to give you an opportunity. But it don't matter who gives you the opportunity. What matters is, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with the opportunity? We've got an opportunity after opportunity. You have to deliver. When I was in those Nike meetings, and if Lynn said X, and it was my job to do Y, what are you doing? You have to deliver, right? When I was able to walk into New Balance and we talked about that, and they gave us that opportunity with Darius Bazley. He has to deliver. If Darius Bazley bullshit his way through that, it's a reflection on us.
On all of us, yep. And the next time, there's no next time.
There is no next time.
Right.
Right? Same thing with beats. Same thing with this. Same thing with that. You have to deliver. Going back to when my dad allowed me to work the cash register at his store, I got to know math.
And you were a kid.
I was a kid. There's a risk that drawer can come up short. Can't be on me. Right? You have to deliver.
Right.
So don't be upset at the athlete if you don't have the opportunity. You have to show the athlete why you deserve the opportunity. I had an apartment on Biscayne and a Porsche. When was I there?
Hardly ever.
I don't have no time to run around the Heatles. I got to build a business. I know they're going to play till June. So let me do what I need to do for these guys. And then when I'm done doing my work there, I'll come and do my work here. That's how it was. But who don't want an apartment on Biscayne and a Porsche in Miami?
Right. And run around with, the Heatles.
Whatever the case may be.
Right.
Have a pina colada every which hour, which way you can do it.
So let me ask you this last thing before we get out of here. Everybody wants to be rich, Paul. I can tell you, I can show you DMs, tweets, texts, people running up on me in the street, cold call emails. Everyone wants to be an agent. Everyone wants to be Rich Paul. Or everyone thinks they want to be an agent. Everyone thinks they want to be Rich Paul. Everyone wants to represent talent. There is probably a 19-year-old kid somewhere that's a sophomore in his college dorm room listening to this, or a 21-year-old kid that just finished school and loves sport. What advice do you give them to how do they even get into the game? How do they prepare themselves for an opportunity? Let's go there. Not necessarily with you, just in general in the game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you have to believe you can be Rich Paul. Believe that. I got no problem with you believing that. But create your end goal and work backwards, right? You got to build good habits. You got to educate yourself. You have to know what's down the street and around the corner for someone to put their career in your hands, right? You have to understand you're going to make mistakes along the way. Nobody's perfect. There's going to be challenges left and right. But you can do it, right? Some things are in a book. Some things are just feeling your way through the walls of life, walking down the street, past experiences. It all has value, There's a great book out there that actually David Simmons, who's Ben's dad, got for me to read. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Chop wood, carry water.
Yeah, It's great. The one thing I learned is, everyone wants to compare themselves. We all can, everybody's comparing themselves. Even on social media, it's comparing it. Look, who did this better, who did that better. But what you tend to learn is comparisons are the thief of joy. I can't even embrace my joy if every time I accomplish something, I'm comparing it to you. What's the point? Right? What's the point? Understand the importance of detail. And if you don't have it, put a team together that does. For everything that I do subpar, I have a team member that does it excellent.
Yeah, better than anyone else. Yeah.
No question about it. Right? So at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Steve Jobs was a visionary. In a lot of ways, I enjoy being a visionary, right? But I enjoy the game. I enjoy the people. I enjoy the parents. Everything that comes with it. It's not easy, man. There's so many layers to this business. And for a young African American, there's walls within those layers. So you have to understand that coming into the game, right? But let's not let's break down the wall of color, right? Let's just have it be male and female. Aspire to be Rich Paul. Great. Text me because I'm not going to put my number out there. No. Hit me on IG, Twitter, whatever the case may be.
And you answer back as much as I can. Yeah,
of course.
You're great about
because, again, you may think you want to do it and find out, I don't really want to do it. Mm-hmm. Or you may want to do it and you know, there's so many, like the young man asked me today at the airport, he said, well, I think I can do it. I'm in the sports, isn't it? What do you think? I said, well, what are you evaluating, the talent? He said, yeah. I said, well, what about the character? He said, well, what about it? I said, well, you got to evaluate. If you're gonna bring me a player to me and give me because he said he just wanted to be a scout. Mm-hmm. I said, well, when you're gonna scout him, you got to scout everything. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not saying that someone won't represent somebody because of their character. But I need to know it all. Yeah, right, I got to know everything. Give me all the information. Let me decide what's going to be the case. So, but yeah, you know, I encourage you to be Rich Paul, to strive to be better than Rich Paul, but you have to understand where you're going. You know, you have to understand that you have to be willing to work, you know, refusively, and you have to be willing to come up short. You know, I've taken plenty trips where I came back empty-handed, but that's part of it. You know, that's part of it. Got to learn to live with regrets at the end of the day. So it was, you know, but I'm having a blast though. Through all the, I'm having a, you know, I couldn't be in a better position, and I'm having a blast.
So speaking of which, there's a rumor before we get out of here, there's a rumor going around that you may or may not have taken money off of some celebrities, when I can say any names, in shooting contests, in basketball shooting contests.
For charity.
Yeah. What happened once the monies was exchanged is irrelevant.
Well, look.
Let's talk.
I've never said I was a basketball player.
Okay.
But as it pertains to shooting the basketball,
yep.
I've had this conversation with KD and Clay and Steph and Ray Allen, Kyle Korver.
You're mentioning some of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA.
Well, that's what we are. That's what, you know.
You said we.
We are some of the greatest shooters in the world. And so, you brought it up. I didn't.
No, talk your shit. You know I like this talk.
And speaking in that form.
You're just speaking the facts. Is what
I haven't been able to speak to Larry. You know, I haven't seen Larry in a while. But you know, Rex Chapman. I've seen Rex Chapman.
Let me ask you this: would you be the worst? We're just saying shooter. Would you be the worst shooter on every NBA team?
No way. No way. No way.
You would not be the worst shooter on every NBA team.
No. Now I cannot get around a pick and roll.
No. When I talk about basketball,
I can defend.
Straight up, square the puppies up, let it fly.
On a swing?
Yes.
On a swing, I'm gonna be pretty good.
So not the worst shooter on every NBA team.
Not in a million years. There's no chance of that. P. Are you crazy? What's wrong with you, man? Are you crazy?
Oh my God, I love it.
As a matter of fact, you know.
What?
You know, I once got a deal in Paris, right?
We're not gonna do this.
No. Seriously, I was shooting around, working out. They offered me a deal. I turned it down.
They offered you a deal to do what? Because
I was asked Chris Gent, who's currently
assistant for the Hawks now.
Assistant for the Hawks. Yep. A phenomenal shooter. Mm-hmm. He and I went toe to toe. I won't say who won.
Ohio State.
Yeah, we went toe to toe. He was there, and I was locked in, and the guy came in, but I told him I can't really play.
I'm busy doing this other thing, building this empire.
I can't really play, but I can shoot. So if it was just a shooting game, I like my chances. But these guys are some of the best athletes in the world. I won't kid myself. But you know.
So to clear up the rumor, you have or have not taken down some major celebrities, actors?
I have. Yes, I have. You know. Yes, I have. But as friends, sometimes you do those type of. But it's for charity, though.
Rich Paul, my brother, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate
Thank you. I appreciate it,
my brother. Peace.